This episode of After the Quiet contains personal experiences and discussions of coercive control, emotional abuse, and relationship conflict. Some content may be distressing or triggering for listeners. Hi, and welcome back to After the Quiet. This is episode 60. This episode starts with a moment I'll never forget, because it wasn't just surprising, it was terrifying. Oh shit, the house sold. When we first listed it, I honestly didn't think it would. We had showing after showing, people coming through, looking around, and then leaving. It was a beautiful home, but it was specific, not for everyone. So, in my mind, I had time to figure things out, time to keep going to counseling, time to slowly come to terms with what my life was about to become. But suddenly, that time was gone. Because when your house sells, you don't just celebrate, you have to decide. And we were forced into a decision we weren't ready to make. Do we go our separate ways, find two different homes, and try to work on the marriage from a distance? Or do we move together and try to fix everything under the same roof? And if I'm being honest, there was a part of me that already knew the answer. I wanted my own space, my own life, a clean break. But then there was the other part of me, the role of mom, the part that wanted stability for my kids, the part that wanted to hold on to the idea of a family. Because when everything feels like it's falling apart, you reach for whatever might hold it together. So we talked about it. We tried to make a plan. The idea was simple. Downsize. Find something smaller, something manageable, just for a year or two. A place to regroup, to rebuild, to figure out what came next. It made sense. It felt responsible. But that didn't last. Because somewhere along the way, the plan changed. And it didn't change slowly. It shifted the way things always did. Quickly, decisively, and not by me. He was used to getting his way. Every house we had ever lived in, every car we had ever bought, those weren't joint decisions. They were his. Fast, brash, final. And this time was no different. We started looking at smaller homes, talking about budgets, location, what would make sense for where we were in life. And somehow, we ended up with the exact opposite. A bigger house, farther away, more space, more responsibility. And I remember thinking, how did we get here? How did we go from trying to simplify our lives to taking on something even bigger? But by that point, I was already in it. Because once the decision was made, it wasn't really a discussion anymore. It was happening. And now we had 3 months. 3 months to pack up an entire life. 3 months to move 3 kids. 3 months to step into something new, while everything else was still unresolved. And somewhere in all that chaos, something quietly disappeared. The focus on fixing our marriage. At the beginning, there was intention, counseling, conversations, the idea that we were working towards something. But once the house sold, once the move became the priority, that light faded. Because now it wasn't about healing. It wasn't about accountability. It wasn't about rebuilding trust. It was about logistics, boxes, paperwork, timelines, and survival. And I think that's something people don't talk about enough. How easy it is for real issues to get buried under life. Because moving is stressful. Selling a house is stressful. Raising kids is stressful. So you tell yourself, we'll deal with it later. But later doesn't come. And in my case, later turned into years. Years of trying to make something work that was already broken. Looking back now, that moment, the house selling, that was a turning point. Not because it fixed anything, but because it locked me into staying, into continuing something that I already knew deep down wasn't right. But when you're in it, you don't always trust that voice. You override it. You justify. You convince yourself you're doing the right thing for your kids, for your family, for the life you thought you were supposed to have. But sometimes the thing you're holding on to is the very thing that's keeping you stuck. Thanks for listening to After the Quiet. Please remember to subscribe to this podcast and share it with others who might need to hear my story. And also join me on Instagram at after.the.quiet. If you recognize parts of my story in your own, please reach out to someone who can give you support, or look for that support in your community. You are not weak for needing help. You are human. Your voice deserves to be heard.